All right. Hello, beautiful and amazing people. How is everyone? Thank you for joining me tonight on the Wealthy Trustee webinar. Tonight, I am going to be teaching you guys how to build wealth utilizing a trust entity. If you are not on mute, please mute yourself. I would really appreciate that. And we are going to get started on this short presentation. So allow me to share my screen. Let's see here. All right, perfect. Oh. All right, let's get started. And so after the presentation, we will have some time for Q&A. So please hold your questions for the end. But if you do have a question, remember it so that we can answer it, okay? So like I said, this is the Wealthy Trustee webinar. I'm going to teach you the right way to build wealth. I know that you guys are intentional about building wealth. You're building generational wealth, and I want to show you the right way to do it, okay? So my name is Christina Yvette. I am your instructor for tonight. So I am a trust strategist. I have been dealing with trust since 2015 when I started operating my own trust. And the way that I got into that is I was actually a registered nurse, and I was a registered nurse for 8 years. But at that point, I was a registered nurse for 2 years, and I saved up my money. I decided to invest in real estate. So I created a real estate investment company, and my mentor at that time actually was dealing with trust. So he instructed me to open up my my investment company and purchase that property with a trust. So that's exactly what I did, and I have been a trustee ever since. So I have helped hundreds of people become trustees and actually build passive income for their trust. So I'm going to show you guys exactly what that looks like. Okay, if you are not on mute, please mute yourself. I would appreciate that. So this is a disclaimer. This is not legal advice or tax advice. So I'm not a licensed attorney or a certified public accountant. Okay, so I am a trustee, and I help other people and I empower them to become trustees. Okay. So the objective for tonight is for you to learn what is a trust, the different contributors in a trust, how to operate a trust, some tax strategies, some wealth building strategies, and how to protect your assets. So how do these companies pay little to no taxes, right? We see the Trump organization, we see Berkshire Hathaway, we see Amazon, right? These are billion-dollar organizations. We have heard Trump say that while he was, a president, that he doesn't pay taxes because he's smart, right? We heard Warren Buffett say that he pays less taxes than his secretary. How is it that a billionaire pays less taxes than someone who makes six figures? And the reason is because they have trust within their structure. So they are structured the right way so that they're actually reducing their taxation, because taxation is very heavy. So you guys want to do the same thing. You also want to have tax. You also want to have trust within your structure so that you can reduce your taxations as well. So this is a $1 bill. Do we see the word trust, right? So if you look into the middle on top of the word one, you're going to see it says, "In God we trust." And so a lot of people think that that is just like a slogan, but in fact, it's not. It's the name of the trust that the United States of America Corporation uses, okay? So the USA is a corporation, and they use trust within their structure as well. So if the United States of America is using trust within their structure, you so also be using trust within your structure, okay? So what is a trust entity? Let's get into the meats and potatoes, okay? So a trust entity is an entity just like you and I. It is considered a living, breathing breathing entity, okay? So it is actually a contract, just like other contracts or agreements that we get into. And with the trust entity, it actually has an establishment date and an expiration date, okay? So you can run a trust for anywhere between 7 to upwards of 100 years. And then at that point, you just have to renew it, because we are creating generational wealth. And so we have to constantly renew our trust so that it can go last the next generation. So with the trust, you have several different parts in the trust. You have the declaration, where you are declaring what it is and what it is not, right? So when we are doing the declaration for the trust, we are declaring that the trust is a trust, right? Whatever type of trust it is. If it's a common law trust, a private trust, an irrevocable trust, that is going to be in the portion of our declaration. We are also going to declare what it is not, right? So our trust contract is not an LLC. It is not a corporation. It is not a partnership. Okay, so that is very important when you are creating your declaration for your trust. The next part in a trust is the indenture. The indenture, the word indenture means agreement. So we know that we're dealing with an agreement or a contract. There are several different parties involved in this agreement or contract, which we will go over, okay? So who are the parties involved with the trust agreement? We have the grantor. The grantor, other names for the grantor are settlor or trustor, okay? So they're all interchangeable. You can choose whichever one you want to use. But the grantor is the creator of the trust, okay? So that is the individual who is creating the trust for the benefit of someone else, okay? And so typically that person is the beneficiary. With the grantor, they are usually the donor in the trust, right? So they're the ones giving what we call the consideration. When you're dealing with contracts, you have to give a consideration depending on the type of contract. And with a trust, you do have to give a consideration. So that means whatever you decide to fund your trust fund with initially, that is what's going to be labeled or documented as the consideration. So typically the grantor is the individual that does that, okay? So that's their position. One, they create the trust. Two, they fund the consideration for the trust or the trust fund. The next party involved is the trustee. So the trustee is the controller of the trust. That is the person who is, one, the fiduciary. They are going to be dealing with the assets in the trust. So they are going to be managing those assets, liquidating those assets. They are going to be dealing with the bank accounts. They're going to be operating the trust, right? So the day-to-day operations of the trust is the duties of the trustee. The trustee has many duties, but then if there are certain duties that are not listed in the trust, they can operate in their full discretion. So they are the controllers of the trust. They have all the power, all the control. If you are setting up a trust, you want your position to be the trustee. You want to have all the power and all the control for your trust, okay? And so the trustees are the ones who are operating the trust and managing the assets for the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries are the inheritors of the trust, okay? So all of the assets that belong into the trust eventually go to the beneficiary. So let's just say that the trust is either terminated or expired. Those assets need to be transferred to the beneficiary, okay? That is the way the trust is designed. But if you don't want that to happen, then you need to make sure that whoever the trustee is at that time, if it's you or someone else, that person renews the trust so that the trust can maintain to hold those assets. So with the beneficiaries, one, they need to understand the contents of the trust, and two, they need to understand the powers that the trustee has, because the trustee is their fiduciary, okay? So let's talk about different types of trust. There are hundreds of different types of trust. And I'm going to go through a few categories, okay? So the first category is express versus implied. So an implied trust is an oral trust, right? Just like how we can have oral contracts, we can have an oral agreement. So you can actually have an oral trust. I personally do not recommend that you have an oral trust, but it is possible for you to have that, okay? So on the contrary to that is express trust. An express trust is a written trust. So it's in black and white, it's in a contract form. And that is the best type of trust to have, just in case there are any type of discrepancies dealing with the trust, you have it in writing, okay? So after that, we have statutory versus non-statutory. So with a statutory trust, it's what we call statutory in nature, meaning that one, it is a public trust because it is registered in the state. Then it has state statutes embedded within the indenture of the trust, okay? So inside of that contract, you have, for example, let's just say that your state is Georgia, right? You have the Georgia state statutes and codes inside of your trust. So that means that if that trust is established in Georgia, it has the state statutes or laws of Georgia inside of the trust, and it is registered in Georgia, it can only be used in Georgia, okay? So that is what a statutory trust is. And usually with that type of entity, the state regulates that type of entity. With that type of entity, they're typically created by attorneys, because attorneys fall within the, statutory law, okay? On the contrary to that is non-statutory. Non-statutory means that it falls under common law and it is not regulated by the state that you actually establish that trust in, okay? So that's important to note. And because it operates under common law, almost all 50 states and territories have a common law legal system. And so that means that you can actually use that trust in the entire nation and the other territories. So that's extremely powerful. So if you are to create a trust, you definitely want to have a non-statutory trust, because you don't want the limitations and you also don't want to be regulated by the state, and you want your trust to be private versus public, okay? So another category is irrevocable versus revocable. So every single type of trust falls within one of these two categories. It's either irrevocable or revocable. So with an irrevocable trust, it means that the grantor has irrevocability, okay? So it only falls under the grantor. It doesn't fall under any other party. So with an irrevocable trust, the grantor cannot terminate the trust. The grantor cannot make any changes or amendments to the trust. The grantor cannot change the trustees or the beneficiaries. And if the grantor were to put property into the trust, they cannot revoke or take the property back, okay? The property would have to be sold back by the trustee, okay? So with the irrevocable trust, it is actually, because it can't be changed by the person who created it, it is seen as like heavily protected, or what we call like bulletproof. Because if it were to end in litigation and the judge needed to pierce the trust, the judge would choose not to pierce an irrevocable trust because it can't be changed. So that trust is a good or better trust to that trust is a better trust to create versus a revocable trust. With the revocable trust, it can be changed by the grantor. So the grantor can make amendments, and the grantor can change the beneficiaries, the trustees. The grantor can also be the trustee. But with that type of trust, if it were to end up in litigation, and the judge decided to pierce that trust, then that means that it would turn into a public trust, because all of those cases are public. So you would have to actually produce the trust in court. And then at that point in time, everyone would know who the beneficiaries are and what type of assets are held inside of the trust. So that trust is, it's not as safe or heavily protected as an irrevocable trust, okay? So these are the steps on how to actually create a trust. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to determine what type of trust you want to create, okay? So we just went through some different types of trusts or categories. So with that being said, you definitely want to create an express trust. You want to have a trust that's non-statutory so you can use it in the entire nation or in other territories. You definitely want to have a trust that's irrevocable so that if it ends up in litigation, they won't pierce your trust. And another one is you want it to be a discretionary trust so that you as the trustee are able to do things that are not quite mentioned inside of the trust as far as provisions. So number two, you want to determine the trust name, okay? So when you are naming your trust, you do not want to name the trust after yourself, because we are in a situation where we want to conceal our identity. And so if your name is John Doe, you do not want to name the trust John Doe, okay? Because then they are going to know that you are associated with those assets that are under that trust. So you can use abbreviations, right? You can use your initials. You can use a lot of other different mixtures of names. So for example, if you're creating a business trust, then you can use the abbreviation LLC. And so it's going to appear as an LLC, but it's not an LLC. You can also use other abbreviations like co, company, corp, things like that. If you're creating a private family trust, then you can also use things like legacy. You can use generation, you can use family, you can use your name. So there's different ways for you to name your trust, but you definitely don't want to name the trust after yourself. Then you're going to appoint the grantor. So if you guys are creating an irrevocable trust, you do not want to be the grantor because that's going to give you irrevocability. So you want to appoint yourself to be the trustee of your trust so you can have all the power and all the control. And then you're going to appoint someone else to serve as your grantor. That person could be anybody, right? It could be a neighbor. It can be a coworker. It can be your sibling, a parent, grandparent, whoever is actually able to notarize the trust with you, because the trust does need to be notarized by the grantor and the trustee. So you want to appoint someone who's able to do that. And obviously someone who is, 18 or older and qualifies. So after that, then you're going to appoint the beneficiaries. Okay. So the beneficiary can either be an entity or a natural person. So usually the beneficiaries are going to be your children or whoever you want to inherit your assets. All three of these positions, the grantor, the trustee, and the beneficiary, one, you can have unlimited of those positions, and two, entities and natural persons can serve under those positions. So if you wanted a trust to be the grantor of another trust, you can do that. Or if you wanted a trust to be the trustee of another trust, you can also do that. So now you have to choose a successor. The successor is a successor trustee, and that is the individual who's going to take over after you when you either expire, when you become incapacitated, or when you resign. So you have to have someone in place ready to go to take over after you, and they're literally going to take over once you are, done serving as the trustee. So they are not going to serve as the trustee while you're serving as the trustee. So the day that you're done is the day that they begin, okay? And you want to make sure that this individual is qualified and that they actually accept their position to be a successor, and that they are, ready to go, because sometimes someone can serve as a as a successor for like 10 or 15 years. So you want to make sure that they are still able to serve in that position. Number 3 is you want to then create the trust agreement. So like we said, the trust is a contract. You are creating this contract. And so you want to put all of your rules and your regulations, all of the provisions in place so that you are customizing this trust for either your business needs or your family needs, okay? After that, you are going to notarize the trust. That is what is going to make the trust legal for you to actually be able to operate it, okay? So do not operate your trust before it is notarized. Once it's notarized, the first thing that you want to do is you want to actually open up a trust bank account. So with that being said, you can choose any bank that you want. And the documents that you need in order to open up a trust bank account is 1, your certificate of trust. The certificate of trust is proof of identity of the trust, because you have to remember your trust is private. Your trust is going to stay, in your home, and you're not going to bring it out to the bank. So with that being said, you're going to bring your certificate of trust with you to prove that the entity actually exists, because they won't be able to look it up on the public records or the Secretary of State to actually see, okay? And they're going to be going based off of your word. So the certificate of trust is going to serve as that proof of identity. And then you want to also bring your EIN number or your 98 number for banking purposes. So once you have those documents, then you're going to be able to open up your trust bank account, and you can fund your bank account with whatever you want. So remember earlier we said that whatever you initially fund your trust fund account with, that is what we call the consideration, or what we call the initial corpus, okay? So we use the word corpus when we're talking about a trust, and it sounds like what it is. It sounds like a corpse. So that is what we consider the body of the trust, okay? So after you've opened up your bank account, then you're going to start transferring assets into your trust. So let's just say that you choose to transfer your primary residence into your trust, right? So with that being said, what you're going to do is you're going to execute a quit claim deed in order to transfer that property from your personal name into the trust name. And then at that point in time, the public records is going to be updated to represent that the trust is the new owner of that house. Once the trust owns that asset, the trust is going to be responsible for any financials or anything dealing with that asset, meaning the trust is going to pay the mortgage. The trust is going to deal with the utilities, paying the utilities, maintenance, anything dealing with that house, okay? So that is what operating the trust looks like. It looks like you having board meetings of things that you are doing on behalf of or for the trust estate. And then it looks like you actually managing the assets and the financials of the trust. All right, let's talk about asset protection. So the number one reason why you want to set up a trust is for asset protection. And it's going to give you complete privacy, which is what you need, right? You want to conceal your identity, because if you don't have your identity concealed, then people can come after you, and they can come after your assets and your growing wealth, and you don't want that to happen, okay? So a trust can actually protect you from several things. Here are some examples of things that a trust can protect you from, right? It can protect you from lawsuits, from divorces, from bankruptcies, from heavy taxation, from probate, from foreclosures, right? And so you do not want to wait until any of these things are happening for you to be able to start protecting, your assets or your wealth, right? You want to do it prior to any of these things happening, right? And I'll give you some examples. So, for example, with a lawsuit, right? Let's just say that somebody wanted to sue your business, right? And so they can actually go to the Secretary of State's website because it's public, and they can see who the owner of that business is, right? Who the authorized member is, or who the president is, or CEO of that company. And then they can decide to sue the company. And if they sue the company and in that lawsuit, you lose the judgment or the business lose the judgment, then the judge can decide to pierce the corporate veil. If the corporate veil is pierced, that means that they can go after the business owner for their personal assets to fulfill the judgment, okay? And you don't want that to happen, because now that means that, one, they can come after you. Two, that means that they can start garnishing your wages, they can freeze your bank account, they can try to seize your assets, and you don't want that to happen. So in order to protect yourself, what you can do is you can use a business trust as a holding company. And so you would actually remove yourself, you would do an amendment, you would remove yourself as the owner, you would have the business trust be the owner, and now if somebody or a customer wanted to sue the business, then they could sue the business, but if the veil is pierced, then they will go after the business trust and not after you. So that's your first layer of protection when it's dealing with any type of lawsuits or anything dealing with any of these examples, okay? So the next one is divorce, right? Divorce is also a lawsuit, and it's a lawsuit between spouses, right? And so anything that is included in the divorce is assets that are in their personal name, right? And so if you have assets in a trust, all of those assets that are in a trust are protected, because they cannot be included in the divorce, because the trust is seen as a separate entity from you or your, spouse that's divorcing you, okay? So that is, a really good thing, because now you are protecting yourself by having those assets in a trust, and it's not going to be included in your divorce. Another one is heavy taxation, right? A lot of people they're giving away like half of their income to the IRS. And so what you want to do is you want to reduce how you are taxed. And one of the trusts that we educate on is a ministry trust or a 508c1a. And with that trust, it is a nonprofit and it's tax exempt from federal taxes. So because it's a nonprofit, what you can do is you can donate your income, not the entire thing, but you can donate a part of your income to your trust, to your ministry trust, to your 508. And then if you do that, then it reduces your taxes. So for example, let's just say that you're a W-2 employee and you make $100,000 a year. Well, you can actually donate up to 60% of your gross income. So that means that you can donate up to $60,000 of that $100,000 to your ministry trust. And then at that point, you would be taxed on 40% or 40,000 versus the whole 100,000. So that reduces your taxation significantly. So these are, that's an example of a strategy that you can use in order to reduce your taxes. The next one I want to talk about is probate, because probate is inevitable. A lot of us, we are so busy actually, getting the money, right? And getting the assets, right? Getting the house. And we don't think about how we're going to transfer the wealth, right? And so, for example, if you have a house right now in your personal name and you did not wake up tomorrow, how do you expect that house to be transferred to your child's name or to your spouse? A lot of us, we don't think about that. And so that means that unfortunately, we don't have our affairs in order. So that property is going to end up in probate. And then it's going to be up to a judge whether your children get your house. So with the probate process, the way it works is if you have an asset, let's just say that you have a house, you have a car, you got 6 figures in the bank, you have, you know, debt too, right? Student loans, credit cards, all this stuff. You didn't wake up tomorrow, right? Your family, they're grieving. And now, because you had only a will, right? A will is not going to protect you from probate. A will is like a wish list, right? It's just your, you know, your wishes, your last will and testament, how you want your assets to be dispersed, right? So with that being said, your will is going to end up in probate. And what's going to happen is your state is going to issue you an estate, right? Because you didn't create your own estate. You didn't create your own trust. So because your state now has to issue you an estate, your estate is going to go to probate. So it's going to go to probate court and it's going to be seen by a probate judge, and your estate needs to be represented by a probate attorney, okay? And at that point in time, all of your assets are going to be moved into your estate. So that house, that car, the bank account with the money in it, all of that is going to go inside of your estate. So the first thing that's going to happen is your debt that you died with, those creditors are going to go after your estate. So the judge is going to rule to pay your federal student loans, to pay off your credit cards, okay? So that debt is going to go after your estate. And then you have fees, right? So the probate attorney needs to be paid, the probate court system needs to be paid, and whatever is left over is what your children get, is what your beneficiaries get, is what your heirs get. They get the leftovers. And sometimes what I've seen is that it's actually impossible for the beneficiaries to keep the assets. They have to liquidate the assets to be able to cover the court fees and the debt. So with that being said, the other way of doing this is if you were to create your own estate, which is your trust, and you were to put your assets into the trust, right? That house, that car, that bank account, all of that is owned by the trust. Then at that point, if you didn't wake up tomorrow, there's no transfer that needs to happen because the house is going to stay under the trust. The bank account is going to be maintained under the trust name. The car is going to stay under the trust. And your children are the beneficiaries. So there's no transfer that needs to happen, okay? And that debt that you had, the student loan debt, the credit card debt, that debt dies with you. That debt cannot go after your trust estate because your trust is a separate entity from you. So it's very important that you guys get your affairs in order and actually set up a trust so that you can avoid the probate process, okay? A trust is the only thing that's actually going to avoid probate. There is no other way to avoid probate. All right, so let's talk about the wealth building formula. So we have 3 pillars here. We have structure, credit, and invest. So with the first one, with structure, is very important to be structured the right way. And this is the structure that I recommend when we're talking primarily about trust, okay? So the first one is to have an unincorporated business trust. The second one is to have a private family trust. And the last one is to have a nonprofit within your structure, and that is a tax-exempt 508c1a trust, okay? So let's talk about it. With the business trust, you can actually have that operate as a business, or you can have it operate as a holding company, okay? And so the way it works is, for example, if you have an LLC, right? And like I gave the example earlier, if that LLC is owned by you and it's in your personal name, you want to do an amendment with the Secretary of State to remove your name as the authorized member of that LLC.
No.
Can we get on mute?
Mommy's doing something important.
Hold on. All right, there we go. So, you are the authorized member of that LLC, right? And with that being said, you wanted to do an amendment with the Secretary of State to remove yourself and to add your business trust, okay? So your LLC is going to continue to operate the way it's been operating, okay? Nothing is going to change. Your employees are going to stay intact. The assets within the LLC is going to stay intact. Everything stays intact. Hold on one second. So everything stays intact, okay? And the only thing that changes is that you remove your personal name and now you replace it with the business trust. The business trust is now the owner of that LLC, okay? And so the business trust is going to be non-operational, and it's only going to hold the position to own that asset, which is your LLC. Your LLC is an asset, okay? So with that being said, let's just say that your LLC generates $100,000, right? Well, a LLC is a pass-through entity. So with that being said, the LLC, the $100,000 can now be distributed to the owner, and the owner is going to be the business trust. So that 100,000 is going to go to the business trust. And when you file your taxes for the LLC, that's going to be a zero tax liability because the money went to the business trust. So with the business trust is taxed at 38%. That's pretty high. So the business trust is also a pass-through entity. So what you can do is you can do your deductions. So let's just say you do 10,000 in deductions. Now you have 90,000. You can pass through and you can distribute that 90,000 to the private family trust, okay? So the way that we structure it is we structure it to the point that the private family trust is the beneficiary of the business trust. Remember, I told you that beneficiaries can be entities as well. So that's the beneficiary, okay? So now that 90,000 can be transferred to the private family trust. The private family trust is where you do your expenses for your family. That trust is also a for-profit entity, so it's going to be taxed at 38%. So you have to decide if that's, if you want to pay 38%. So with this type of entity, what I love so much about it is that you get to actually spend the money and then you pay taxes on what's left over, versus us on the W-2 employee side. We receive the money, we pay taxes first and then we receive the money. So it's totally different. So when the private family trust receives that 90,000 in income, what's going to happen is you're going to do your deductions, right? You have a lot of expenses. That's where you're going to be paying the kids' tuition, the car note, the mortgage, the gasoline, all of these things, right? Your insurance, all of it. And then at that point in time, you're going to, do your deductions and reduce how much you have to pay. So out of that 90,000, let's just say that you spent 80 of it. Now you only have 10. So you can pay 38% on that 10,000, right? Or what you can do is you can donate that 10,000 to your nonprofit, right? To your tax exempt faith-based organization. So now that 10,000 is donated to the ministry trust. And at that point in time, the ministry trust, it is designated as a 508c1a. So that means that it's the only exception to not having to file for a 501c3. So it's automatically exempt from paying federal taxes. You can also be exempt from other taxes like property taxes, state taxes, sales taxes, county taxes. You can be exempt from those, but you do have to apply. But the automatic exemption is on the federal level. Okay. And with that being said, once you donate that 10,000 to the 508c1a, then at that point you're done reporting, because you don't have to report your bookkeepings or anything like that to the IRS. Okay. So that is very important for you to have that type of trust within your structure. So now let's move on to the next pillar, which is credit, right? credit is super important, right? They say cash is king, but credit, credit is king. So with that being said, what's going to happen is you can actually build credit with your trust. A lot of people, they don't know that. They don't know that they can build credit with their trust entities. So it's the same thing as business credit. So with your corporation or your LLC, how you're building business credit with the 3 bureaus, it's the same process. You get the same type of credit for a trust, okay? So you definitely want to do that, right? You want to be able to, one, you can leverage your personal credit, but you want to also leverage business credit, because with business credit, you get higher lines of credit, okay? And right now we want to put you in the position to where your trust is able to create its own streams of income and to sustain itself. So with that being said, you're going to establish trust corporate credit. And another thing you can do is you can qualify for nonprofit grants because you have a nonprofit within your structure, the 508. So you can qualify for nonprofit grants. That money will come into your trust, and then you're able to, to invest it, right? Because the nonprofit can invest in real estate, crypto, stocks, bonds, anything. There's no restrictions on the investments that it can do. Hold on. All right. So the next one is invest. The next pillar is invest, right? So these are the 2 investments that I recommend. I recommend one, an index universal life insurance policy, and the second one is real estate, right? So with your index universal life insurance policy, a lot of people think that your policy, your life insurance policy, is supposed to be used when you die, right? But actually it's supposed to be used when you are living, okay? It has a lot of living benefits, and you want to put yourself in a position to where you are paying yourself first. So you can actually use your IUL policy that way by paying yourself first, right? So with your IUL policy, it is an asset and it is liquid. And that's how they see it too, right? So you need to see it as an asset because the insurance carriers also see it as an asset, okay? So with an index universal life insurance policy, you are actually going to be building cash value, and that cash value is going to earn compound interest, okay? It's going to mirror the market. So let's just say if the S&P 500 is doing, 10%, then the insurance carrier is going to match it, and they're going to give you 10% on your cash value, okay? So the way that you pay yourself first is by, let's just say that you got paid, right? It's Friday, you got paid, you made $10,000, right? And so typically what happens is everyone else gets paid first. The IRS gets paid first, your 401k gets paid first, the Social Security, Medicare, all of those things. And then you get what's left over, right? It's deposited into your checking account. And typically what you do is you go and pay your bills, right? You go and pay your mortgage, you get groceries, you put gasoline in the car, pay the kids' tuition, all of these things. And then whatever is left over, you either leave it in your checking account, or you can put it, you put it into a savings account, right? And so that is like the wrong way of doing things, right? Because what you want to do on the contrary to that is pay yourself first. And the way that you would do that is once you get that money direct deposit into your bank account, you actually park it inside of your IUL policy, right? So you make a payment to your IUL policy for that money, whatever. Let's just say that it's $9,000, right? So now you put that $9,000 into your IUL policy, And that 9,000, now that it's sitting in your cash value, it's going to, you know, gain interest, right? Which is a beautiful thing, because now you're now you are paying yourself first, because you're going to be gaining interest on 9,000 versus what's left over if you paid your bills first. Okay. You probably only have $1,000 left over, right? And so you investing $1,000 versus $9,000 is a big difference, okay? So you want to pay yourself first versus paying everybody else first, okay? So with that being said, that 9,000 goes into your cash value. And you're going, you know, the insurance carrier is going to match it with whatever the market is doing, okay? And at that point, you also need to pay your bills. So what you're going to do is you are going to borrow against your policy, against the cash value, and you're going to get that money back. So the money actually comes from the insurance carrier's money, from their reserves. So it's not taken out of your policy. It's not taken out of your cash value. So your 9,000 is still working for you inside of your policy. And now you get to borrow the insurance policy or the insurance company's money. Okay, so that is extremely powerful. So they will either give it to you in a check or direct deposit. So they give you a loan for that 9,000 or whatever the maximum loan is at that moment. And now you're able to pay your bills, your mortgage, your gas, your tuition, all of those things, right? So you have paid yourself first, and then you got the loan, and now you are able to pay your bills, okay? So that is extremely, extremely important, and you want to put yourself in that position because it's going to help you fuel your wealth building, your wealth building journey, okay? The other thing is real estate, right? Real estate is a tangible asset, and real estate is something that is always appreciating, okay? And the way that you want to acquire real estate is you are an investor. And so they have investor loans out here, okay? So one of them is a debt service ratio loan where you can get 80% of the loan value. And you just have to find 20%, which is going to be your down payment. And so that is for investment properties, not owner occupied properties. Okay. So with the trust, you're going to want to acquire investment properties. You're going to want to use a debt service ratio loan, and you're going to need to have 20% down. Well, what you can do is you can use that trust corporate credit that you are building and establishing as your down payment, right? So we are setting up credit, and let's just say that we either get a line of credit or we get credit cards, whatever, from your business trust, right? For your business trust. And with that being said, you want to liquidate those credit cards or that line of credit and use it as down payment for your real estate, right? So let's just say that we got that credit card for $50,000. So we liquidated it. And now what is the first thing that you're going to do with that $50,000? The first thing is you are going to park it in your insurance policy, okay? So you are going to put it inside of the IUL policy, and then you're going to borrow it back out. So now you have that $50,000, right? What are you going to do with it? You are going to use it as down payment for real estate. So now that $50,000 is going to be working for you twice, because it's going to work inside of your policy, gaining compound interest because it's in your cash value folder. And now you're going to use it as down payment for real estate, which is extremely powerful because you got the debt service ratio loan, which gave you 80%. Then you use that $50,000 as the down payment for the 20%. So you just acquired real estate for 0% down. So that is how you're going to establish your two assets for your trust, your IUL policy and real estate. Okay. So that is how you're going to put the trust in a position to where the estate can actually sustain itself. So how do you transfer wealth, right? You want to put yourself in a position to where you own nothing but control everything. Own nothing but control everything. That is the definition of stewardship, right? Stewardship is so vitally important. That is where you know that your assets are being, taken care of the right way versus ownership. Ownership is when we are owning the assets in our personal name, but there's no protection to it, right? And so you want to get out of that mindset of, I'm so proud to own my house. What you want to do is you want to control your house, right? Because one thing is for sure is that your trust is going to outlive you. So you do not have to have that sense of control or that sense of need that you have to own the property, okay? So stewardship is the way to go. So how do we actually transfer the wealth, right? Because we have this house, we have, the money, and so we are going to transfer it with the trust, right? Everything is going to be owned by the trust. And like I told you earlier, if anything were to happen to you, there is no transfer that needs to happen because your beneficiaries are your children and they already are the beneficiaries of the trust, right? So with the trust, you get what we call TCUs or trust certificate units. Trust certificate units are just like stock certificates, okay? So stock certificates, they represent ownership in a business, in a corporation. TCUs, trust certificate units, represent beneficial interests in a trust. So a trust is a living entity. No one can own a living entity, right? I'm a living entity. I'm a living, breathing entity. No one can own me. A trust is a living, breathing entity. No one can own a trust. So you have what we call beneficial interest, which is the same thing, but the verbiage is different. So let's just say that your trust has 100 trust certificate units, right? So when you're establishing your trust, I told you, you put a consideration, right? So let's just say you establish it with $1,000. That's the consideration. At that point, that exchange automatically forces the trust to create the TCUs. Those TCUs need to be dispersed to your beneficiaries, right? So you can disperse them however way you want, right? You have 100 TCUs. They just cannot be fractionalized. So let's just say you have 4 beneficiaries. Well, you want to distribute them equally if that's what you want. So each beneficiary is going to get 25 TCUs. And that's going to represent their beneficial interest in the trust. So let's just say that the trust is, up for a quarterly distribution and there's $100,000 that needs to be distributed. Well, that distribution is going to be based on the TCUs that the beneficiary has. So out of that 100,000, if the beneficiary has 25 TCUs, then they're going to receive $25,000 as their distribution. And the same thing goes for when the trust is terminated and those properties need to be disposed of, right? So let's just say that there was 100 houses, same concept, right? The trustee at that time would need to deed over 25 houses to that beneficiary that has those 25 TCUs. So that is, that is one way that we represent how wealth is transferred, which is super important. It's something that I want you guys to start thinking about now and today, okay? Because tomorrow is not promised and we need to be ready. So the next part is preservation, right? Preservation is super important because we have to understand that we have some key players in the trust estate, right? So if you're the trustee of the trust, you are what we consider human capital. You are a human resource to the trust. You are a human asset. So because you're a human asset, you need to be insured, okay? So the trust is going to insure every person associated with the trust. The trust is going to insure the trustees and the beneficiaries and all of the future beneficiaries, okay? With these policies, the trust is actually going to apply for the policies. So the trust is going to be the owner of the IUL policies, the payer of the IUL policies, and the beneficiary of the IUL policies. So if anything were to happen to you, right? So let's just say that you expired, right? You didn't wake up tomorrow. Well, the trust just suffered a loss, right? You are the human resource. The trust just suffered a loss. The trust needs to be compensated for that loss. So what happens is that death benefit goes to the trust. And so now the trust is compensated for the loss, but the trust is replenished by that death benefit. So that is one example of preservation, which is extremely important. Another example is, like I said, the trust is going to take out a policy on all of the future beneficiaries. So let's just say that there's a beneficiary that was just born, they're 30 days old. The trust is going to take out an IUL policy on that 30-day-old baby, right? Fast forward 18 years into the future, that beneficiary wants to buy their first car. So normally what they can do is they can actually go to the dealership, they can pull their credit, they can, go through that whole process of getting a car note for $500 a month and purchasing that car, right? Or on the contrary, what they can do is they can actually take out a loan from the trust, right? So the trust can issue loans to the trustees and the beneficiaries, and the trust can also receive loans from the trustees and beneficiaries. So that 18-year-old beneficiary goes to the trust and asks for a $30,000 loan. And so the trustee at that time is going to write a check for the $30,000 and hand it over to the beneficiary, okay? And the beneficiary is going to go buy that car cash. And now the beneficiary is actually going to pay the trust. So instead of the beneficiary paying the dealership $500, the beneficiary is going to pay the trust $350 a month, right? And the trustee is going to issue a promissory note and collect interest, right? So now that's one gain for the trust that aids in preservation. Let's say that that beneficiary decides to default on the loan, right? So the beneficiary does stop making car payments and now defaults. Well, what's going to happen is it's actually a risk-free loan, because what happened was the trustee took the 30,000, right? The 30,000 did not come from the trust fund. The 30,000 came from the beneficiary's life insurance policy. So the trustee went to the insurance carrier and borrowed out $30,000 from that beneficiary's life insurance policy, because the trust has been paying into it for the last 18 years. And the insurance company issued out a check to the trust for the $30,000. Then the trustee goes and issues out a check to the beneficiary for the $30,000. So it's a risk-free loan because the loan doesn't need to be paid back because it's going to be taken out of the beneficiary's death benefit. So that is extremely important. Somebody is off of mute. So that is extremely important when it comes to preservation, because that is what's going to preserve the wealth for the trust. So these are the books that I recommend. I recommend What Would the Rockefellers Do? That is a really good book teaching you guys on how to utilize trust and insurance policies together. The Art of Passing the Buck, Volume 1 and 2, which is going to teach you about trusteeship, which is super important. The Family Wealth, which teaches you how to run a family office. And the Complete Book of Trust, which teaches you about the different types of trust, okay? And I want you to take action on the information that I shared in this webinar, because it can be your new way of doing business, making profits. It can solve a lot of your problems dealing with protecting your assets, with lawsuits, with heavy taxation. And you want to treat this like a big business, right? You don't want to treat your trust estate like a small, mom and pop shop. You want to treat it like it's a Facebook or a Google or a billion-dollar organization, because that's what it can be. So what I want to do is I want to show you a short video of a trustee that actually took action on the information that I shared.
Well, kudos to you all. Again, Christina, it's been a wonderful experience. I've been looking at your videos on YouTube for a while. And, there are a number of people offering trust these days. And, I guess that's the big thing, don't own anything, control everything. That kind of, I didn't say it correctly, but that is the sentiment. And so it seems like the playing field is being leveled now from the rich and people who weren't privy to this information. So thank you for being such a great asset to a community that didn't have this information. And you made it so simple. Thank you for the recordings. Thank you for the step-by-step instructions. Things that we can go back and look at. So we do appreciate you. And thank you, Mondo. That was a great explanation of infinite banking. I know a number of people are talking about that, but they make it so complex. And his presentation was nice and succinct and very informative. So this has been an overall great experience. I definitely will recommend you to others.
Oh, let's see. All right, perfect. So let's work together. I do have a program where I teach you guys how to set up the 3 trusts that we spoke about: the unincorporated business trust, the private family trust, and the nonprofit trust. Okay, so the first option is you can do it yourself, right? So we actually have a course where we have 42 video modules. And so what you'll do is you'll download the templates and you'll play the video, and you'll be able to customize your trust exactly the way you need it to be. And I'm going to show you what a trust looks like, because some of us, we haven't seen what a trust looks like. Okay, so you get the templates. You also get lifetime access to the course. You get access to the resources and ebooks. So a lot of the books that I recommended, we do have them included in the program in the ebook version. Okay, and the resources, we give you all the resources that you need to be able to actually effectively and efficiently operate your trust. We give you the promissory notes. We give you the templates for your board meeting. We give you the tax forms that you need, right? A trust actually files a 1041, right? We give you the W-9s, the 1041s, everything that you need in order to operate your trust. And then we have a private Facebook community. We have over 200 people in our private Facebook community that has already gone through the process that you are about to go through. Okay, and so we are a tight community that actually helps each other out and support each other through this journey. With this do it yourself, the course is $997. And the next option is done with you. With the done with you, you get 5 group Zoom calls. Okay, and so we do it in a workshop style setting, where it's Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So our next workshop is actually this Monday coming up, from November 6th to the 10th, okay? And on Monday, we actually set up the business trust. On Tuesday, we set up the private family trust. On Wednesday, we set up the ministry trust, and we become ordained ministers in 5 minutes or less. On Thursday, we actually start establishing our business credit for our business trust, and we go through our board meetings and our our promissory notes, so that we can actually open up our trust bank account, and we apply for EINs. And then on Friday, we go through asset transfer. So if you have a house, we do the quitclaim deed. If you have a car that you want to transfer, we do the bill of sale. If you want a business that you want to transfer, we do the business purchase agreement, and we will go through the amendments with the Secretary of State. And then lastly, we talk about infinite banking, so that you guys can establish your first asset for the trust. Okay, so it comes with the 3 templates, and we're going to be setting them up together on Zoom live, so that whatever questions that you guys might have, we can answer it on the spot. So I actually get to hold your hand through the process. You get that instant assistance. Plus, you still get access to the course, lifetime access, and the Facebook community, the resources, the ebooks, and that sense of security that your trust is actually set up the right way. So the done with you is $2,500. And then the last one is private sessions, where we can do it one-on-one, and I actually set up your 3 trusts for you. So you get that individualized support, and you still get lifetime access to the workshops, right? So all of our past workshops, plus our present workshops, and our future workshops. So we usually do a workshop once a month, sometimes twice a month, just depending on the month. Okay, so you still get lifetime access to all of that, but usually the one-on-one and the private is for individuals who have multiple assets, multiple businesses, and so they need that hands-on assistance. Okay, and it's extended support. So the private sessions are $5,000. Okay, you can go to wealthytrustee.com so that you can actually enroll in any one of the programs. So here is, hold on. There we go. Here's my contact information. So you have my number there, you have the website, you have my email if you have any questions, and social media. So now what I want to do is I want to show you what a trust looks like. Hold on. There we go. So this is what a trust looks like, okay? Everything that you see in red is what you are going to be filling out. This is an example of a template so that you can customize your trust to what you and your family needs or what your business needs, okay? So I'm just going to scroll through so that you can see the actual agreement and what you will be getting. This is only an example of one, which is the unincorporated business trust. But everything that you see here are the provisions, the rules, the regulations that are going to protect your assets, okay? So this is what a trust looks like. And now what I want to show you is what the program looks like. So this is the Wealthy Trustee program. Like I told you, you get 42 lessons. So we start with what a trust entity is. You learn what is a trust, the different parties, right? So who's the grantor, trustee, beneficiary, all that stuff. And then from there, we go to you setting up your tax exempt trust. So you learn about the declaration and the bylaws. And so I actually break down every single paragraph of the trust, right? So for example, the business trust is 51 pages. I break down every single paragraph in those 51 pages so that you can understand the contents of the trust so that you can operate the trust the right way, right? A lot of times I see that people, they're trustees and they don't know what's inside of their trust, or they don't know the first thing to do with their trust. And so in the program, we show you step-by-step everything that you need to do in order to actually set up your trust and run it the right way, right? So we show you how to set up your EINs and how to actually set up the trust. Then we do the same thing for the private family trust and the unincorporated business trust. And then we go through some tax strategies, because with this structure, you're operating a for-profit entity and a nonprofit entity. So we show you the strategy so that you can reduce your taxations. And then we go to asset protection, right? So the first thing that you want to do is you want to take an inventory of your assets so that you know what you're going to be putting inside of your trust and what you're going to leave out of your trust. And a lot of people, they didn't know that they had assets just sitting around, that they could use. And then we show you how to open up a bank account a brokerage account, how to transfer your house, cars, insurance policies, things like that. And then after that, we show you the wealth creation, which is you building credit, right? Trust corporate credit for your trust and utilizing that as a down payment for real estate, utilizing that to actually invest in the stock market with index funds, utilizing that in order to fund your IUL policy, right? So we show you that. And then lastly, we have the resources and the ebooks. Okay. So that is, excuse me. So that is, that is the wealthy trustee way. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite Mondo on here so he could share some information about infinite banking with us. Mondo.
Hey, good evening. How are you doing?
Thank you, Mondo.
Yes, indeed. Good
Doing
evening.
good. How are you?
Hey, I'm awesome. I'm doing great. Doing great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mondo Grimes. I'm the executive director for AMG and Associates, and we are partners with Seven Ways to Wealth and Christina Yvette. We are going to talk about infinite banking. So I'm going to share my screen. It looks like Christina, you just okay. I should be getting on now. Let me see. Yep, there we go. Okay, cool. Thank you for doing that. All right, awesome.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good. There we go. Let's see. And I think we're good. All right. All right. Can you see my screen? Should be able to. Okay. If you can't,
It
somebody
looks
let me know.
good.
Looks
It
good.
looks
Okay,
good.
perfect. Okay, perfect. Awesome. All right. So we're going to talk about how to be your own bank using an index universal life policy. Okay. We'll walk you through some basic baby steps of understanding the foundation of an IUL and how to be your own bank and some of the strategies that are used. Okay. First, what we have to understand is how do banks operate? Okay. That's important. In order to know how to be your own bank, you have to know how banks actually operate. So let's break this down. So this is you over here on the left. This is us, right? You get your paycheck, you have your money. And what we do, we follow this little green arrow and we put it into the bank. Okay. And then we pull it out of the bank and we put our money in and we pull it out. This is our little cycle right here. Now, this green arrow, the bank, once they have our money, it is in a lended position. Right? And they tell us how much interest they're going to pay us on our money, when really we should be telling them. But that's not the way it's been set up and the way it's been programmed. Okay. So what banks do, they take our money that's sitting in our savings and our checking and different things, and they take it and invest it into life insurance. It's called BOLI, bank-owned life insurance. Okay. Matter of fact, one of my associates, Rich, is a former CFO for a large bank that some of you probably actually bank with. And he was over all of the BOLI accounts for this particular bank. Okay. So BOLI is bank-owned life insurance. Banks will take out policies, IUL, index universal life policies, out on every employee in their organization. Okay. There's a death benefit, but there's also cash accumulation that builds up. And guess who owns that cash accumulation? Though that asset, the bank, because they're the ones that own the policy. No different than when you go to work currently and you have a group health insurance policy. Well, guess who owns that group health? The company you work for. You don't own it. You're just a participant, right? So this is no different. The company will take out a policy on all their employees. They own all the assets that accumulate. And what they do, they get 500 to 600% return on our money. We put our money in here. They put it in a policy and they get almost 600% return on money that they got from us. They take that money and they leverage it. Corporate partnerships, big buildings, any city you've been to, you see the big building with the name of the bank at the top. Any sort of sporting arena that has the name of a bank attached to it, big salaries, you name it. Okay. And then they take that money, they leverage it another way, and they create loans where they sell money. They sell money, credit cards, business loans, mortgages, okay, and turn around and charge us all types of interest, 17 to 20-something% on credit cards, business loans, all different types of interest rates, et cetera. And they turn around and give these loans back to who? Us, okay? That is how banks operate. They don't take our money we put in a savings account and just put it in a vault and have it chill. They actually start working your money. So what we're going to teach you how to do is how to work your money versus the bank working your money. Okay. And the tool we use is life insurance policy, an IUL. Here's some facts regarding what the top tier one banks had to report in 2022 after COVID. The government asked them to reveal their books to help the government understand how come they did not go under like a lot of other banks did during COVID. Okay. And when they opened the books, this is what they found. They found that all these banks right here, now you can even Google this. This is all something you can find yourself. This is how much, and this is with a B, billions, not millions, how much life insurance these banks have currently. This is BOLI. So if banks are doing it, how come we can't do it? Okay, and that's what we're going to teach you how to do. So you might see your bank on here. Okay. And now, people ask, they always ask me, so are these tools for people like me? I mean, I hear what you're saying. These are huge banks and this may be for certain types of people. Is it for me? Absolutely 100%. Let me show you how this tool is used. An IUL is the Swiss Army knife of wealth. You can use it many different ways. Okay. A very popular way and a very strong way is infinite banking. A lot of people use it for savings accounts. Okay. We'll talk about that. Project funding, putting money in your policy. Okay. Because you're thinking like, what's a life insurance policy? Yes. It has a death benefit. We're not talking about the death side. We're talking about how to use an insurance policy for your life. That's what IULs are designed to do, to use while you're living. Okay. And there's a part B called the death benefit, and that's when you pass. But this is all about utilizing this tool while you're living. So how do you do that? With project funding, savings account? Obviously, there's a death benefit. Retirement funding. You can build your own retirement plan with these policies. We have clients that do this all the time, that use this policy for income replacement. Well, what do you mean? Okay, well, it's the oh no fund. Well, let's say you get laid off. Now what? Okay, well, you can have your policy start paying you a salary to replace your income you just lost. You can also set it up for private lending to where, like banks do lending. Well, guess what? You can do lending too, leveraging your policy to lend out money, right? And gain interest and create cash flow. And also a lot of parents do this for their children. They'll get policies on their children when they're small and they let that cash accumulation build. And by the time they go to college, what they do is just pull that money out of that policy and pay cash for the tuition. Okay. So there's a lot of other ways you can use this, but these are the most popular that we help our clients with. Okay. Now, again, people say, well, I don't need retirement funding. I don't need income replacement. I don't need none of that. I've got a 401k. That's awesome. 401ks are great. Okay. It's one way to save for your retirement. It's beautiful. However, I will show you the difference between a 401k and an IUL and how it's leveraged and some of the benefits. Okay. So let's look at this. This is a 65-year-old person who has a 401k versus a 65-year-old who has an IUL. Okay. So let's say on the 401k, $858,000 in retirement savings. Now in a 401k, there's no death benefit because it's not an insurance policy. Okay. So in your retirement, you want to withdraw $129,000 a year to live. And that's real strong. That's a strong retirement. But a part of this is that there's a tax that you have to pay, because now that you've got close to $1 million in your retirement savings, this is a higher tax bracket than your earning years. So you were earning money, putting money in your 401k, the company possibly is matching. So that way, by the time it's, all this money stacking up, and what it's doing is slowly raising your future tax bracket. And now you're paying $32,000 off of this 129. And you're taking home $97,000 a year in income. Not bad. However, I'm sure most people would like an additional $32,000 in their pocket, right? I know I would. Okay. But here's the challenge that we see all the time. And you may even know people like this. In 9 years, age 74, this individual runs out of money. They outlive their retirement because of all the taxes, and it's not accumulating. They're not contributing anymore. It's not being matched anymore. It's being taxed heavily. Okay. And they run out. And that's where you see a lot of seniors, unfortunately, having to go back to work in their mid 70s. Okay. Now let's go over to the IUL. In the IUL side, you have actually less money in the cash value, 709 versus the 858. Okay. But here there is 864,000 life insurance death benefit. Now that's the backside, right? But what about when you're living? Let's say you wanted to take home $97,000, no different than this person in the 401k. Great. It matches right there. But guess what? There's zero taxes. These policies are tax-free. And guess what? How much you take home? You take home $97,000 in income. Now, let's say this individual lives to age 100. Okay, this person will receive will have received an income $3.3 million, and then at time of death, the family will receive a $3 million death benefit, and both are income tax free. Hasn't paid Uncle Sam one dime on retirement money, and the family hasn't paid any taxes on the death benefit. That is what the difference is between a 401k and an IUL. Okay. Now, some people say, well, how do I become my own bank then? If this is awesome, how do I do it? You show me the what, but how, right? All right, so here's what we help our clients with. When you get your trust, you get set up, you go through the course, you get everything done, as Christina will teach you. This is what we teach you to do. You have your trust, has the income, has the money. You bypass keeping your money in the bank. You pay yourself first, as she was talking about. You put your money here in a life insurance policy. Okay. And why would you do that? Just like the banks, accumulated value, uninterrupted compounding growth, uninterrupted. And we teach you that in our consultations. Cash value, tax-free. You can leverage it for so many different things, as you saw the banks do. Income replacement, as we talked about. Private banking, you can become a bank. You can loan money out literally to other people and other institutions, okay, who are looking for resources. And then there's the coinciding death benefit. And there's living benefits to it as well. And also the death benefit is collateral when you need to take out loans from your policy, which you do not have to pay back. And I'll walk through that soon, okay? Now, we're talking about unlocking infinite banking, and this is a strategy to use this policy as a personal bank. And in our consultations, once you get your trust set up, we will walk you through how to do in very fine detail. It's very easy, but it is a paradigm shift, as Christina was mentioning. And we walk you through how to do that with your policy that's designed for you. You can also use it as a safe, smart savings account. Okay, to put instead of putting your money in the bank and getting less than 1% in interest, you can put it in a high yield IUL that will give you anywhere between, we've seen in the last 20 years, the average has been 9.85%. Okay, and we've seen it as high as 17%. And in 2021, it was over 22%. Okay, and we walk you through all that as well, how that works out. IUL benefits, here's what you have to understand. Here's keep it real simple. All right. So to keep it real elementary, insurance is the safest industry to invest in by far. By far. Number one, because the policy is not in the market, it mirrors the market. And if the market is doing bad, we can get off the market. When it's doing good, we can jump back on it at will. Okay. Uninterrupted compounding growth. It never goes below your principal. It always goes up. It never goes down. Okay, it yields 5 to 6 more times than a long-term CD and guaranteed returns. We show you in an illustration how the returns are guaranteed and how it works. More benefits. You access your money anytime. People ask me all the time, well, if I put money in, how can I get it out? Well, how quick can you get money out of your bank account? It's no different. Same thing. Deposit slips, withdrawal slips. Same thing with the insurance policy, with an IUL. It allows you to retire 100% income tax free, as we mentioned, and there's no reporting to the IRS. Okay. And I want to mention this real quick. A lot of people have asked, like, how come I've never heard of this kind of policy? Some people have, but some people like, what's up with this? I haven't heard of this. Well, the reason is because the Department of Insurance and the IRS have put a chokehold on insurance companies marketing IULs. They can market car insurance, term insurance, all types of other insurance, boat insurance, flood insurance, you name it, but you can't market IULs publicly. Why? I'm going to show you. Income tax free, no reporting to the IRS. That's why. They don't make any money off these policies. All these other policies, they do make money on. Okay. And that's insurance 101. When you get a license, you learn those things. And IUL, more benefits here, being your own bank. There's no credit check or no financial statement requirements if you take a loan from your policy, which you would be if you're doing infinite banking. There's no repayment terms required. Your death benefit is the collateral. No repayment terms, and it's in liquid cash, as I mentioned earlier, easy to access your money. Now, who uses these strategies? You know, there's several people have built empires leveraging these policies. Real estate investors, you know, Walt Disney, John McCain, J.C. Penney, Ray Kroc, McDonald's, Wells Fargo, as you saw all the different banks earlier. Okay, and they use these policies within a trust. And if you were here the whole time that Christina was teaching us, you will see why they will put these policies in a trust. It protects them even more. Okay. Standalone, they're really strong and protected already for the benefits I mentioned. But you put it within a trust, it is bulletproof, period. Okay. So, this is a phenomenal strategy that what we do as a team is our wealth advisory team. We will sit with you once you get your trust together and we see that you've got everything done, everything notarized, everything taken care of. You got all your stuff straight. And Christina is giving you the thumbs up. All right, you're ready to start rocking and rolling to put your first asset into your trust. We then will set up a consultation with you, myself and one of my partners on my team here. Okay, and this is us. We have a wealth advisory team who, from CPAs, wealth management specialists, to sales directors and advisors and like. Okay, even tax services, accountants, and wealth management specialists. So we cover the full gamut. And even for small business owners who are looking to scale and generate more revenue, we have marketing services as well, okay, to help you with that. So with that said, what we'll do, as I'm sure Christina probably will pivot over to a Q&A, but first of all, I want to thank you for listening to what I have to say, and open for any questions if you have any. Christina?
Thank you, Mondo. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Mondo always does the best job educating us on IUL policies. Thank you so much. So what I want to do is I do want to open up the floor for Q&A, but the first thing that I want to tell you guys is for everyone who's on this call, so there's 58 people on this call, I am running a special so you guys can actually get half off, 50% off from now until Monday when the workshop starts. So all you have to do is use the code TRUST50 on our website, wealthytrustee.com. And like I said, it's going to expire Monday when our workshop starts at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's start the Q&A, you guys. Any questions, comments, concerns? I will take a look at the chat, but I prefer for you guys to come off of mute and ask me whatever it is that you need to ask me, or ask Mondo whatever it is. All right, we got our first victim, Candiz. Is it Candiz? I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, it's Candiz.
Candiz. All right, cool.
How you doing, sir?
All right. The biggest question I got is, do y'all have a affiliate program or a referral program? Because I'm sure like more people than just me are interested in something like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, Candiz, we do. We have an affiliate. So I have an affiliate program. Mondo has an affiliate program. I'll talk about mine. So the link should be in the chat. Can you put the link in the chat, please? The link should be in the chat for you guys to join the affiliate program, and we give you 20% commission off of any students that you have that came through you. So you apply for the program, you instantly get your affiliate link, you share it to your friends and family, and if they sign up for the program, you get 20% commission. So go ahead and apply for the affiliate program. It's instant approval. That was a good question. And then Mondo, can you tell them about your affiliate program?
Absolutely. So our affiliate program, once you come through our process, we send you a unique link for you, and as you send it out, and use that link to set up a consultation. Once they actually get approved and purchase the policy for their trust and get situated, we then have a schedule where we will pay you a certain percentage for the first 10 people. We up that percentage when we get to 25 people, and we up that percentage to a very large amount, over $500 per recommendation, per referral, after 50. So we have a scale system that is broken down in our affiliate program website.
Oh, perfect.
Great question, sir.
So that was a great question. Somebody in the chat asked, will the code work for the 2,500 plan? Yes. So it'll work for all three. So if you do the course for $997, you get half off. If you do the workshop for 2,500, you get half off. And if you do the one-on-one private sessions for 5,000, you get half off. Okay. So it's from today until Monday. It expires on Monday. Okay, guys. So use the code TRUST50. I'll put that in the chat. And Dominique, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. You just mentioned that 50% off is up until Monday, However, if someone has a scheduled appointment with you that is after Monday, will that person benefit of the 50% off? Because my appointment with you is on the 8th.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my calendar was a little challenged this week, but I will honor it for you if you have an appointment after, but usually right now it's only until Monday because the workshop starts on Monday. So I'm not sure which plan you want to go with, because if you want to do the workshop and you want to get rocking and rolling right away, then you don't want to miss the workshop that's coming up on the 6th to the 10th. Okay. So if we need to have a call sooner, let me know. I'll message you off of the webinar to see if I can plug you in sooner. I might have some time on Saturday or Sunday. Okay. So that you can take advantage of the discount.
The problem is I will be out of town, and that's why I had to push it until the 8th. Basically, okay. I was expecting, okay, that's the thing. But I do have a scheduled appointment for a Zoom call with you that is on the 8th, the Wednesday, the 8th of November. So basically, if you want, I can give you a call later before that. But I'd like for you to honor my the 50% off, because I have scheduled it to a week and a half ago.
Okay, so we will talk about it offline, and then we will, come up with something, Miss Dominique. Okay, don't you worry. I'm fair and square. So I got you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, Jessica.
I have another question, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What's the age limit would you recommend for an IUL, and also for the, I don't remember the exact term, for the living benefit insurance?
The age limit. Okay. So the age limit typically for an insurance carrier is around 80 years old. Some go to 85. But if you're in your 50s, 60s, even 70s, the older you get, there's some stipulations that the cost of insurance gets a little higher. Obviously mortality rates, things like that. But I would think that you're okay as far as age. So unless you're over 85, then it might not be that.
By my voice.
Yeah, well, we typically don't see a whole lot of 85 plus people on our Zoom. So, I'm just guessing here. So, but yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Well, another thing that I want to mention, because Dominique brought up something really good. So even if, because with the IUL policy, you have to get approved, right? They do like the application and the medical. And so sometimes I've seen that people get denied, right? So if you're in that position where you are older, you might have some medical problems, things like that. The way that you can actually get this type of policy, the good thing about it is that, one, the trust is going to own the policy, right? But the insurer does not have to be you, right? So it can be the younger people in your family that are, your grandchildren, your children, you can insure them with the IUL policy, but your trust is the owner and you are the trustee. So in a sense is your policy because you're the one controlling the policy. So we've seen a lot of unique situations where the trust, is able to insure someone else, but the trustee still has control over the policy. So you can do that, Dominique, if you fall within that category, or anyone else who has some type of medical problems and falls within that category. So Alexis said, great point. Yes, it is a good point. We have seen it. So, next we have Jessica, and then I do see some questions in the chat that I will answer.
Hi.
Hey, Jessica. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you to both of you for your presentations.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
I just have two questions for, I guess, both of you, I suppose. My first question is, so if I'm understanding correctly, so I have a W-2 job. So when I get paid, I take that, they've already taken out their taxes. So I go into my bank and I remove that money, and then so I would write like a deposit slip to put it into the IUL or on behalf of my trust. Is that how that works? That's my first question.
Okay. So first thing you would do is basically it's a form. You can call it a deposit slip, but it's a one-page form, basically letting the insurance company know that you want to make a deposit into your IUL for how much. Here's the policy number, and all the details regarding your policy. And I want to put this amount in. They'll do an ETF transfer, okay, or wire transfer, whatever you set up, and they will take that money and put it into the cash value of your policy, okay. And immediately you post, okay? And then after that, at whatever date you would like, it could be a couple of days later, it could be next month, whenever you want, you could then take a loan out for the same amount of money, okay? And have it transferred back to your account. Now, somebody will say, why would I do that? Well, reason why is because when you put the money in the account, say it was $5,000, right? Okay, Jessica, you put 5,000 in, your cash value just went up $5,000. When you take a loan from your policy for $5,000 so you can go pay your bills and do what you have to do, your principal still stays as if the $5,000 is still sitting in there. It doesn't move. Reason why is because you've taken a loan not from you. You've taken a loan from the insurance company. You're borrowing from their money, and they see that you have it and you're good for it. So they then say, okay, well, Jessica's good for it. We'll give her $5,000 of our money, and your principal stays the same. So it's OPM, other people's money. You're not borrowing from you, you're borrowing from them. That makes sense?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you. And then my second question is more of the trust question. So I literally did just buy a house in my name, though. I didn't know anything about all of this. So 6 months ago. So for me to transfer ownership to a newly created trust, wouldn't the bank want to see that this trust has enough capital to be the new owner to pay it?
So your mortgage is going to stay intact, right? So if you deed over the property from your personal name into the trust, your mortgage stays intact. So it's going to remain on your credit, and your trust is now going to be responsible for the mortgage payments. So there's no qualification that needs to happen because you already bought the house under your personal name, okay? That only needs to happen if you're going to buy a property under a trust. Then you would need to show proof of income, which will be in the form of bank statements.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you, Jessica. All right, I have some questions in the chat. So let me see. One says, does the half off, does it work with the payment plan? No. So you would, if you want to sign up for the payment plan, we do have payment plan options. It is on the website. So you can break it up into 3, or you can break it up into 5. So go to the website so that you're able to see the options that we offer, but the discount is only if you pay in full. The next question is, let me see. Fonda just said that she just enrolled into the program for Monday. So she's going to be locked, loaded, and ready to go on Monday. Yeah. So let me see if there's any other questions. If not, we have Alton. Alton is ready. All right, go ahead, Alton. How are you?
Great lecture I'm fine. How are you guys? Great lecture from both of you.
Thank you.
I just had a question. Now I'm just recently retired, and you mentioned something about in the lecture. I know it's in my chat. I know it's in the chat, but I had something to do with annuities, your retirement earnings that you're getting. How can a trust kind of help benefit that situation? That you're getting annuities from a job that you've just retired from. I mean, it's coming in my name, and I know I already have chosen a beneficiary, such as my wife, when I,
you're
right.
So
so how would it? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so you have annuity. So an IUL and annuity are two different things, right? So do you currently have annuities? Or an
yes,
annuity?
I just have one. An annuity just started.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. All right, that's a whole separate thing. And annuities are great. They're different. Okay. So there's the question then: how do you set up a retirement strategy with an IUL if you're already in retirement? Is that what you're asking, or am I wrong?
Pretty much, yes. Pretty much, okay. Yes. Correct. Okay. How this program and how the trust is going to benefit me now that I'm retired,
right?
And I haven't, I still got more. Hopefully, as Jessica said, tomorrow's not promised to us, but
yeah. So my personal recommendation is not to focus on a retirement plan. However, you could look at using this as a savings account on steroids, okay, and leveraging it as a way to store money away that's protected. Your principal will never go down. You will always get uninterrupted compounding interest. You can access at any time. It can become an oh no fund. You know what I mean, Alton? That oh no fund, that if you ever need to dip into it, and there's ways you can really build your cash value using the infinite banking system by putting money in there and pulling it back out, things of that nature. So I don't know if a retirement plan, if you're already retired, is the best strategy at this stage in the game. However, there are some other strategies, playbooks we could teach you to how to leverage the same tool. So like I showed you that Swiss Army knife, right? There's several ways to leverage this tool. We would identify the best one for your personal situation. That way you could have success with it. Okay.
Exactly. Because I didn't know this one thing, that they just changed the age to 73. In an IRA, you have to start doing distributions of it. So I'm like, I don't want to take the money out and spend it. I want to invest it and grow, but you can't leave it in. Once you reach a certain age, you got to take it out.
Right.
So and we have put it in a savings like that.
Yeah, we have several clients, buddy, that when they get to that particular point with certain investment vehicles, they will liquidate and put it right into an IUL all day long. We do it a lot. So okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, I'll be talking to you.
Okay. Sounds good, buddy.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
All right, we have some questions in the chat. So someone asked about the recording. So we went live on YouTube. So you can go to our YouTube channel so that you are able to actually see the recording for this webinar, okay? And we have other content on there, so subscribe to the channel. But you can find the entire recording there. Let's see. The next question is, so once probate begins, there is no trust establishing possibility, correct? Correct. Once you have already went through probate, it's too far gone, right? So you missed the boat. The asset is not protected. Okay, so you want to avoid probate by putting that property into a trust, or that asset into a trust, right? So yeah, you cannot do anything once you've already initiated probate. Let me see. So someone's asking about the ministry trust. Does one with a ministry 508 have to be deemed verified minister? No, you don't. So you do not have to be an ordained minister in order to be the trustee of the 508. There are some ministerial benefits, so that's why we show you the process, okay? The next one is there recording available in the Facebook group? No, it's on YouTube. The next one is, will I continue to pay taxes on my house if I have a common law trust or statutory trust? Yes. So the only way that you will not have to qualify to pay taxes on your home is if you have it under the nonprofit. And you would actually, you would have to apply to be exempt from property taxes. So with the 508, is very similar to a church. And what you can do is, just like how a church, a physical building, is exempt from paying property taxes, your home can also represent that same organization and be exempt from paying property taxes. You do have to apply with your county in order to be exempt. And with the 508, you would only qualify for one property. So you can't do it with multiple properties, okay? That was a good question. So we have Ramon. Hey, Ramon. I hope I said that right.
I believe you did say it right.
Yeah.
I like Ramon's name.
Yeah.
Nice.
I get that a lot. Everyone likes that. You Latino? Like, poquito. But okay, thank you guys. Thank you guys for this presentation, and I'm really interested. And I've been watching y'all on YouTube and things like that. So I got like maybe two questions I have. My first ones are to you, Christina. I got a couple trusts, kind of addicted to it. I got a couple trusts set up, but the way that you express it in your setup is way more solid than what I got going. So I'm definitely gonna get involved. My question is, once I sign up and everything, that the workshop, I don't know, my schedule's kind of busy. If the Monday, I forgot what date you said, to the 10th, if I'm not, say I pay and everything and I'm set up, but I'm not able to make it, is there future ones or?
Yes, that's a good question. So you do get lifetime access to the workshops. So we have the workshops once a month. Sometimes we have them twice a month, just depending on the registrants. So for November, right now, we have it going from November 6th to the 10th, and then the last week of the month leading into January 1st. So it's the week after Thanksgiving. That will be the next workshop for November. So you get lifetime access to the workshop so that you can attend live. And then we also record all of the sessions, so you get access to the recording. So if you enroll today, then you'll be able to attend next week. And then any workshop days that you miss, you'll get the recordings for it. And then after the workshop, once you've completed all the foundational stuff, then you can book a one-on-one with me so that we're able to review your stuff before you get things notarized or submitted.
Right. Okay, that's great. Okay, and I got one more question, Armando. And I don't want to go, too detailed, because I know, So, but when you expressed it to the last lady that about, if you put this in, you get a loan on that. When we do sign up with your program and things like that, you guys kind of walk us through, because all that side of it is kind of way new to me with the insurance. I heard about it, and but once I get in, I would want to, because that sounds like, man, that's it right there. So
right. So this is one of the key factors of why Christina and I are partners, because one of our core values is that we walk people along every step. We don't just have you sign up and then just let you figure it out on your own. Okay.
Right.
We educate people. That is something that both of us are very passionate about. So we will walk you through so you understand the entire scope, the entire playing field, the entire strategy that's built for you, all the access points, everything you need to know. And you also have access to our team 24/7. This whole thing, it may sound very complicated. Honestly, man, it's not.
Right.
It really isn't. It may seem that, but when we break it down to you, it's actually really straightforward. Okay.
Right.
So we walk you through and make sure that you're well taken care of, not just in the beginning, but ongoing, as Christina does the same exact thing.
Good to know. Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
really what I have. Thank you, guys. I'm definitely going to sign up and get involved because, opportunities come, but they may not last. So gotta jump on them. Thank you, guys.
Sounds good, Ramon.
Thank you. All right, so we do have some questions in the chat. So Mondo, I think this is like a 2-for-1 question. So they want to know how long before their available funds are able to be used as a loan. So there's kind of 2 questions here that's pretty much the same.
Yeah. Okay. So immediately. So as you put funds in, the funds are available immediately. Now everyone's policy is different, so there's not one hard rule, but based upon your age, gender, health, all that, and then also the funding, that's important. What you fund the policy with and what you plan on doing with it. We build it a certain way and show you what you have access to. You have access to all of it. It's just how much will you have access to based upon how we design your policy. So there are some policies out there that people say, well, they got it where I can't access it for a couple of years. Well, it can be designed that way if somebody doesn't know what they're doing. But what we pride ourselves on is making sure that you have access to those funds if that's the strategy that you want to implement. Okay. Hope that helps.
Mondo, can you mention the surrender charge?
Yeah, absolutely. So the surrender charge, that basically is the cash value that you have access to. You don't want to take out all of it, because if you do take out all of it, you will surrender the policy, and you don't want to do that. However, as you are putting money in, you are increasing the cash value and your surrender. Okay, so making deposits is important. It's important. So you definitely want to do that. And the surrender charges, it grows over time. The more you put money in, the cash value is growing as well as the surrender. And that surrender is what you're able to take loans from. Okay. You don't, again, if you've got $50,000 in surrender value, you don't want to take out 50. You can take out 49, 48, but you don't want to take out 50, because if you do, you're surrendering the entire policy.
Yeah, so the way I look at it is I look at it as a security deposit, right? Because like with my particular policy, I have 5 policies, you guys. So with my particular policy, when I first started it, my surrender charge was around $4,000. And so if I were to fund it with 10,000, 4,000 of it will go to the surrender charge. Okay. And so that is like a security deposit, because you get it back, right? That's the way I look at it, like a security deposit, because you get it back. It's eventually going to be released. I don't know if it's with every carrier, but I know it's with my carrier. Okay.
Most carriers are that way. You're right. Most carriers are that way.
Okay, that's good. And so initially when you are depositing funds in there, so a lot of that money is going to go to the surrender charge initially, right? And once you've met that charge, then whatever is surplus, it goes into your cash value and you're able to borrow. So if you were to deposit 10,000 today in your surrender charges for, then 6,000 would be available in the cash value for you to be able to borrow from. Okay. So just keep that in mind, because I want people to know that it's not 100% initially. Okay. The next question I have here, you have anything to add, Mondo?
No, you're good. We can get too in the weeds, and I don't want.
Okay.
Yeah, this is good.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So the next question is, the trust is not a corporation or LLC. It's just a certificate of trust. So no, your trust is an entity. It's similar to a corporation or LLC, but it's not. Those are also entities as well. The certificate of trust is just a 1-page certificate. It's notarized. And what it does is it's your identity, right? It's the proof of identity for the trust. Okay. So just like how we have a driver's license, and when we go into a bank to open up an account, they ask us for our proof of identity. The certificate of trust is the proof of identity for your trust, because they're not able to look it up anywhere to see that it is a legal entity. So that's why you want to present them with that notarized certificate, so that they know, okay, this is the information that we need to input so that we're able to open up this account. And so you're going to provide your certificate of trust with a lot of things that you're going to be doing. So obviously with your financial institutions, right? Your banks, your brokerages, and then also if you are closing on a house, then the title company is going to ask for it. If you're going to a dealership to purchase a vehicle under the trust, then the dealership is going to ask for it, okay? So that's what the certificate of trust is. So in the program, you get all of it. You get the trust, which is the indenture and the declaration, but then you also get the bonuses, which are the certificate of trust, okay? So let's say, who's next? We have Vincent. Hi, Vincent. How are you?
Hello. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you very much. I just have a question about the ministry trust. Does it have to be a religious ministry? Can it be spiritual or not non-denominational? Can you just please go over a brief kind of overview of how the ministry trust ties in with the other trusts, please?
Yes, that is perfect. That is a phenomenal question. So with the ministry trust, there's a lot of different names for it, okay? We can call it ministry trust. We can call it faith-based organization. We can call it a church. We can call it, a 508c1a designated trust, right? So think about it like a faith-based organization. It could be a faith in anything, okay? So it does not have to have a denomination. It does not need to be religious-based, okay? The reason why this type of trust exists is because of the separation between church and state, okay? So churches do have the ability to not have to go through the route of establishing a nonprofit and going through the 501c3. And this is their route, which is the 508. So they are exempt from having to even file for a 501, okay? But it's not only for churches, so it doesn't have to be religious. It can be religious or educational. With the faith-based organization, you can have faith in anything, okay? It doesn't say that it has to be faith in God, Jesus, or any other type of, entity. It could be faith in water, the universe, nature, mankind. It could be faith in anything. But with that organization, you do have to have a tenet of faith where within the Constitution, you do have to label what the faith is, okay? So if your faith is in the universe, then you got to put it in there, okay? Does that answer your question?
Yes, I think so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vincent. All right, so somebody asked, do you use the Wise Concise Trust Handbook? It is included in the program. When I tell you the program is thorough, it is thorough. Thank you so much. I didn't mention that. It is included in the program under the resources. So you get a lot of resources with the program, including the handbook, which teaches you about trusteeship and about trust. So we not only provide our education, but we also provide other research and other resources from other accredited places, okay? So someone asked, is your course discounted before the end of the year? No, there's no discounts. This is the only discount. So it's 50% off until Monday, and then Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are getting locked and loaded and starting to create our trust. So let's see. I think I went through all of the questions. Mondo, do you see anything?
No, I answered a few of them already that were simple.
I think we had answered the one about, can you put your house under the nonprofit? Yes. So your house can be owned by a trust. It can be owned by the ministry trust, and then you will qualify for property tax exemption. Okay, so you would now consider your house as a place where you would gather your faith-based organization, okay? And you won't have to pay taxes anymore. So for example, my taxes are $7,000, okay? So just imagine you saving that much money, okay? So I'm exempt from paying that $7,000. So you can be exempt from your property taxes as well if you decide to put it in that type of trust, okay? So it's not for all the trust. Someone asked if the ministry trust has to file a 1041. No. So the ministry trust is exempt from filing federal taxes. The ministry trust does not have to file federal taxes at all. But it does have to file state taxes if that's applicable to your state. Let's see. Can the business trust be a member of a member managed LLC? Yes. Is it better to set up the trust before applying for the IUL policy? Yes, it is. Yes. I'll go first, Mondo, and then you can go. Yeah. So the IUL policy is going to be an asset, right? It's an asset and it's going to go inside of your trust, right? You want to create the owner before you establish the asset. So you want to create the trust before you apply for the IUL policy. I hope that makes sense. Any other questions? Well, it's 10:09, so we are wrapping it up. Let's see. I have an LLC and its trademark. Can I put the trademark in the trust? If the trademark can be owned, then yeah, you can put anything that can be owned into a trust. How much is the IUL program? Okay, you answered that already. And somebody said California, I don't know. All right, cool. So we are all done. We don't have any more questions. So you guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We've been rocking out for 2 hours. So we showed you the wealth building formula. You guys, please take action on the information that we provided tonight because it is so valuable. It is going to change the trajectory of your family. It is going to change the trajectory of your children and their children. Now you are going to be, 1, breaking generational curse, but 2, you're going to be training your kids to be trustees. They're going to be successors. Like, it's a whole nother dynamic here. That's why this program was created, so that all of us have access to this type of entity so that we can protect our assets and we can build generational wealth the right way. Because the way that you're building it right now, if a trust is not included within your structure, you're not building it the right way because you're not protecting it. You get in the $1 million, but you're not protecting it. It can be taken away or it can end up in probate. So thank you so much for being here tonight. I hope you take action on the information. Let us know if you have any questions. You can send us an email. You can follow us on all social platforms. And look, all these last minute questions. Someone said, I like to establish a trust, but I don't have any children. You don't need children in order to establish a trust. If you have assets, establish a trust. If you don't have assets, still establish a trust because you're going to get assets one day. Right? If you don't have kids right now, you're going to get kids one day. If you don't have kids right now, but you have assets, and if you were not to wake up tomorrow, who do you want to take your assets? Maybe your siblings, maybe your parents. So you can also just leave everything within the trust too, right? You could donate it to charity. There's so many different things. Right now, we don't want to be in a position to where we have all these excuses. I hear all these excuses, which is, oh, 1, I need an attorney. No, you can create your own contract. A trust is a contract. You can create your own. You don't need an attorney. You don't have to pay $20,000 in order for you to have access to this type of entity. That's 1. 2, you don't need good credit. There's no credit associated with the trust, okay? So there should not be any type of excuses. But anyways, thank you guys for being here tonight, and we will see you around. We're looking forward to answering any future questions that you might have, and everybody have a blessed evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.